Spartan Cheap Hops, ladies and gentlemen, it is Silicon Steve Valley with Mr. Vladi Dottie, Purple Nurple champion, reigning, defending, Purple Nurple champion, and of course, beating my ass last week at Backlash. But that's neither here nor there because we're talking about AEW here on High Spots and Cheap Hops. Vladi Dottie, how are you, my brother?
I'm doing great. It's good to be back here, and I'm looking forward to talking to you about some pretty impressive changes that have happened at AEW of late, and namely involving your favorite wrestler and part-time deity, Kenny Omega.
Well, he is the god of professional wrestling. Thank you, Don Callis. Thanks for showing up. Was that a good Don Callis? It's my first time I ever tried Don Callis.
It's not bad for your first shot.
First shot.
But obviously, Kenny Omega faced Jon Moxley in a steel cage match.
It was a good match. I thought it was cool. Big moment, obviously. Don Callis, something that yours truly predicted weeks ago.
It's true.
Don Callis turning on Kenny Omega. My whole thought process was Don Callis doesn't do anybody any good in a babyface faction. So something had to give. That happened, and the only problem I had with it is why did he stop Moxley from hitting Kenny with the screwdriver to begin with? He can say that he specifically wanted to be the one to put the screws.
I see what you did there.
Or to put the screws to Kenny Omega himself. So that's probably why that happened. Now you are in a spot where you have that betrayal for Kenny, and also there's the impending revelation that the Bucks, or particularly Matt Jackson, somewhat betrayed Kenny a little bit during the Hangman match with the shaking of the head, the greatest storyline in history until the Bloodline. But that's not the point. So Kenny's in a really weird spot here. And you have to start wondering, with his contract coming up with recent comments, where this is going to really lead down the road for Kenny Omega in AEW. But yeah, Don Callis. And what the cool part is, we're going to see a heel Don Callis, which, let's be honest, is a much more entertaining Don Callis. So I'm excited for that. Vladi, how are you feeling about Donnie? Our boy, the Jackal, former ECW color commentator.
Yeah, I mean, we go a long way back with the Jackal and Don Callis, and I always thought he was a talented guy. I loved his work in ECW, especially. And I was just a bit surprised, especially after he got busted open. And I can attest to the fact that you sent to me on text that Callis is turning on Omega. I just thought Omega would be somehow separated along with Callis, maybe going their own way, because I see Hangman with the Bucks. And, here I just thought they were going a different route, maybe with Takeshita and Ibushi. And then here he actually did it. And as we're watching the match, or as I was watching the match, as soon as that panel of that, the chain link came out, I'm like, okay, somebody's definitely going in there. And then I noticed that they kept on cutting to Callis for reaction shots during the match. And I'm like, they're showing him a lot more often than usual. And I was like, son of a bitch, Silicon Steve Valley's right. He's going to turn. And lo and behold, took the screwdriver, actually did the screw job himself, hit Kenny in the face or in the forehead, allows Moxley to win. Bryan Danielson playing shocked, just glee on his face on commentary. And there we have a new table that's been set in terms of this feud, because you have a situation where Kenny's unaware of things that happened with the Bucks, as you mentioned. We're not sure what Don Callis is going to do. Is he taking Takeshita and joining up with somebody else? I'm wondering if there's going to be any interaction between maybe Callis and Will Ospreay, because there's, Will Ospreay would be sort of the second coming of Kenny Omega. And would this be, part of the Forbidden Door angle? I don't know. But there's definitely something brewing here. And I was a bit surprised by it happening. And it's going to be really intriguing to see how this just progresses down, because Kenny's going to go and really lean on the Bucks, but then he's going to be shown this situation with their acceptance of Hangman, probably by the Dark Order. Did you get a chance to see that BTE yet?
Oh, yes. Kenny knows how to take a red drink, doesn't he?
Seems that way. And he's looking for people to fill his friendship holes.
He's got a big friendship hole missing now. And Ibushi's in Japan, so he can't fill it.
So
Matt Riddle, you keep that away from us.
So
Matt Riddle always getting into trouble. Bro.
So you as the, resident Kenny lover, what do you think about this angle now? Where do you think it's going?
I don't know. I wish I could have a better answer for you. My original thought process is that it's going to be a situation where Kenny's going to be on an island by himself for a short while, but then there's going to be a reunion with Hangman. Don't forget when Kenny left, when he said, I'm going to go and I'm going to leave and I got to go take care of some things and get myself right. He said, he actually congratulated Hangman and said, I really mean that. Congratulations. You deserve it. So there was some kind of good blood there between Hangman and Kenny, but it's going to take a little bit longer. The Bucks, it was kind of like jerking with a semi, that reunion between the Bucks and Hangman. They never really had that big hug, that big loving moment. They kind of got together behind the scenes on BTE. It really wasn't as big of a deal as it could have been. I thought they didn't do a great job telling that reunion story. That said, how are they going to tell this story? I don't know. Because I don't know what Kenny's future is in AEW. That's a big part of this. His contract's going to be up within the next 7 or 8 months. By the end of the year, certainly by January.
Right.
So the idea here is Kenny's definitely going to be at least a part of everything until after, I would assume, after Wrestle Kingdom, which is early January. So after that, Kenny has already said it's just very similar to Will Ospreay. Kenny said he doesn't know how much longer this ride's going to take. He's 40 years old. He might want that big match with AJ Styles in WWE at WrestleMania. He might still want that. I don't know. So I think it's a big part of where this story goes. In terms of the immediate story, Don Callis, I think you might have hit the nail. There's 2 options for Don Callis. One option is, you already mentioned, Don Callis goes with Will Ospreay. Might be a little weird because Will Ospreay, I believe, is somewhat of the babyface in New Japan in that storyline. But the other option is Bullet Club Gold. Don Callis, you add Don Callis to the mix with Jay White, not that they need him, but it does up the ante, because if you're somebody who just doesn't know anything about New Japan Pro Wrestling, Jay White's still kind of an enigma to you. You don't know what he's about. You don't know if he's that big of a deal. If you know New Japan, you know Jay White is a big deal. You know Jay White has been one of the brightest stars in New Japan history, doing things that no one's ever done before the age of 30. First and only Grand Slam champion in New Japan Pro Wrestling history. That's impressive, and he did that before the age of 30 as a Gaijin. So he's a big deal. Juice Robinson, rebranded as a heel as Bullet Club last year, comes in AEW. These are really a good start to this talented thing. You add Don Callis right away. You give the American audience, you give those guys some credence with the American audience right away with Don Callis. So those are my 2 options. And you also have a built-in thing down the line, or even very soon, maybe Forbidden Door between Jay White and Kenny Omega, or Jay White or whoever else. So I think it's a good way to get Jay White in the mix in terms of some upper echelon talent. Not that Ricky Starks isn't that, but Ricky Starks he had a rocket ship at the MJF feud.
And then what happened?
Chris Jericho showed up.
Oh, come on. He didn't elevate him? He didn't push that progress to the moon?
No, he didn't. And Action Andretti didn't help either.
Who's that?
Action, yeah. I don't know. Some jabroni. Sean Waltman light.
Oh my God. I mean, it's just predictable, right? Like, this is the things that we said, and look what happened, right?
Yeah, Jericho's on a little bit of a losing streak.
Thanks, everybody, for watching High Spots and Cheap House. Please hit the subscribe button, share, and comment. We want to hear from you. And please take good care of each other.